Yo! Video games.
What up, dudes, and welcome back to the YoVideogames podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Andrew.
And once again, thank you to all our generous patrons who've kept us going for over 340 episodes.
Yeah, if you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogamespodcast. Due to the week is Nicholas B.
Thank you, Nicholas. I'm not sure if you're one of the content creators with a similar name. If it is that one, cool. If it's not, cool. We're just happy to have you either way. Doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah, I mean we can't tell sometimes. So
but if you're one of my mods, awesome. If you're not, awesome. Like, I'm not sure.
Speaking of awesome, we have a sponsor. So right now it's kind of the perfect time. Got high UV, high temperatures. Your balls are going to be a flood. You're going to have swamp ass. So what better time to talk about taking care of them nuts with Manscaped and their unique set of tools. Well, not necessarily. Wait, let me get it.
Well,
there we go.
I don't know of anything else like a lawnmower. I mean, there's definitely electric razors out there, but how many electric razors are there to keep your nuts in order? Probably not many, I'd imagine.
I would say the unique tool is the ball deodorant. I had never seen that before. Manscaped came out with it. And it's already our favorite. And obviously, I bring up the deodorant because I like the deodorant. One thing that I noticed about the deodorant that I didn't know, it says it on the bottle, but it's 0 residue. And you know how like deodorant will leave like that shirt residue?
As someone who can't use clear, I know way better than most.
So I've started paying attention to that to see if it does that, to test it, to see if Manscaped's full of shit. So far, they're not. It is true. So far, it's real good. Even on days when I run and stuff, the shirts don't get all grody. So
it's funny because like some people are like, oh my god, you have deodorant stains on your shirt. I'm like, would you rather I didn't put deodorant on?
Right?
And that always kills the conversation dead there.
Well, like deodorant antiperspirant stains are the ones that can turn kind of yellowish, get a little gross. Deodorant
I've not
stains.
had that. It's just been like white.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't dig them. But one of the
I think if a shirt turned yellow like that, I'd throw it away. I'd burn it or something.
I don't wear a lot of white. All right, your boy gets sweaty. But like we were talking about, the Lawnmower 4.0 is perfect for keeping those ball hairs from getting so thick that you get an actual swamp. Alligators move into your nutsack.
Yeah, that's right.
And you don't want it. But one of the other things is I have charged this thing maybe 3 or 4 times in the amount of time.
It's got a good battery life, honestly. And then there's a great travel mode too, where you click it rapidly 3 times. It gives you a little like signal. It's going into travel mode. Goes completely dead, and then you have to click it 3 times in a row for it to turn back on. Which actually can save you a huge amount of like trouble or a headache for charging. So
yeah, because actually the button does activate if you don't put it into travel mode. The button does activate fairly easily. Yeah. I've done that by accident, where all of a sudden I just like you can hear vibrating. You don't know what the hell it is.
Just like Andrew, what kind of toy are you packing in your luggage?
Well, it's for my asshole. Anyway. It's for cleaning my asshole. Sorry, I left out that Sorry.
Cleaning your asshole, though, they do got body wash.
They do. They got body wash. They got shampoo.
Cleaning your head for shampoo for your head, body wash for your ass. Well, for your whole body, I guess.
Crop mops. Carry that shit with you just in case. Out of nowhere.
And the spritzer, ball deodorant, lotion, and spritzer. Spritzer for any time pick me up.
Anyway, right now is kind of the perfect time to get into all of their different products because they have the Platinum Package 4.0, which has the lawnmower, the weed whacker, ear and nose trimmer, the ultra premium body wash, the ultra premium 2-in-1 shampoo conditioner, which Matt loves, but obviously I'm not in deep need of, and the ultra premium deodorant, the crop preserver anti-chafing ball deodorant, and the crop reviver spray toner. Plus it comes with like boxers and the travel shed bag.
Those boxes are great. I love the boxes.
The boxes are fantastic. And this is the travel bag. I think I've shown it on camera before.
I'm actually sad because they're in the laundry. So it's like I'm actually sad right now that I can't be wearing the boxers, because they're going into the wash. So
Look, I'll be honest with you. I wear them
you'll
to
miss
sleep.
them when you're not wearing them.
I wear them to sleep now, so they don't wear down as fast. It's weird. I know it's weird, but if you too want to find out what it's like to have your balls in luxury, please check out manscaped.com. Use our code YoVG, all caps, for 20% off and free shipping worldwide. That's manscaped.com. Our code is YoVG, all caps, for 20% off, free shipping worldwide. Your balls will thank you. So, speaking of thanking you, I had forgotten sort of that the GTA was doing remakes of 3 and of 4 and of Red Dead. And you gave me the good news. You gave me the good news that they canceled the remake of 4. You gave me the bad news that they canceled the remake of Red Dead. I don't know how I feel about remakes, I guess is what I'm getting at here.
Yeah. Well, the thing was, okay, so Rockstar kind of made their bed because was it last year or 2 years? I don't know. Like it's a 2020 and 21 are voids. They tried to release remasters of GTA 3, Vice City, and San Andreas. The problem was they outsourced it to a mobile developer to make it on everything, including Switch, and it's a disaster. It came out and it was a disaster. Many things. It was great too because in the 2K conference call, like the CEO was like, there was a glitch on release, but it's been addressed. It's like, motherfucker, there was more than a glitch.
So my problem is that San Andreas easily could be one of the best of the GTAs if they remastered it.
It's certainly the most like feature content rich for sure.
It was. I mean, Vice City was really cool, I guess, because one time period, right? But up until that point, you didn't really have a main character that had a character. You just didn't. You invented the character in your own fucking head, pretty much.
Yeah, because wasn't the lore that Tommy's tongue was cut out in GTA 3?
Yeah, that's what they always said.
Why he didn't talk? I don't know. Was that just a game theory, or was that
I think that was just some bullshit, but maybe. I do think though, once you got to Vice City and they were like, oh yeah, you can have a main character that has a personality. People don't need to have like a empty protagonist. Yeah. Vice City was cool, but San Andreas stepped it up to a level that like now you expect of GTA. And I think
and hell, they didn't even have as many features in 4 as they did in San Andreas.
No, yeah, San Andreas was big.
Yeah, I mean, not just the size, but like the whole.
Oh yeah, some of the stats, like
you could get buff, you could get fat, depending on how you ate, how you worked out or didn't work out, stuff like that, which they didn't really have. And then
and that was the first one that you could get like haircuts, tattoos, shit like that.
And 4 had the whole Nico, cousin, let's go bowling. Shout out to our dude of the week. So, and I never really got into the GTA games, but I was always impressed with San Andreas. I thought San Andreas was really. A lot of people really like Vice City more, and I think that allows.
There's a lot of nostalgia with that.
I think people have more nostalgia for the '80s, and I think there's the other aspect of it too, and that is the Scarface aspect. You know how it's kind of like.
Oh yeah.
So many people is like Scarface is the greatest movie, and I actually and I have not seen Scarface in its totality in one sitting, like start to finish. Whatever. Like right, get on my ass about it or not. And I heard a really interesting take from a YouTube channel, Double Toasted. I don't know if you've heard of them, like movie media critics.
I have not. No.
They're really good. And one of the older, gentlemen on the program was kind of saying like everyone loves Scarface until you get to a certain point when you're old enough in life, and then you kind of look at it and you realize it's kind of just a cartoon. Like it's maybe however you feel about the wording, but like it's very over the top, right? It's not.
Well,
it's not quite the sort of like this is the real. I don't know, and I don't really know because hell, I didn't grow up in Miami in the 80s or anything like that. I have no idea what the criminal underworld was.
I'm just gonna say this: it's Brian De Palma, and Brian De Palma's sort of known for just like an over the top especially in the 80s. Actually, let me see. So
I don't know, I
he
just thought it
did.
was an interesting take because most everyone has reverence for Scarface, and I've seen parts of it. I'm like, this seems fun, but it didn't seem like it was on the. It did not seem like it was on the level of Godfather to me. Like as far as like overall filmatic quality. Maybe I'm wrong. And again, I shouldn't be saying this because I've not watched the movie in its totality in one sitting.
Well,
But I thought it was an interesting thing to hear from someone who was kind of like, yeah, everyone loves Scarface until you hit a certain point in your life when or you see enough movies and you kind of just go, it's fun, but it's kind of just over the top and it's
I think it's highly indicative of the era that he was trying to capture.
mm, it's more of a tonal film rather than a realistic film. Like it's capturing the spirit, you say, or
Well, no, I mean, like if you've watched any kind of documentaries or read anything about the
Mhm,
cocaine cowboys period of Miami,
mhm,
like it's not that exaggerated from how
mm,
fucking crazy things got there. I mean, like we're talking about people really did get dragged into hotel rooms or motel rooms to get chopped up in a motel
yeah.
shower and
Well,
shit.
I wonder if he's talking
Um,
more about like the performances.
Well, yeah, but that's also
Um,
a thing from the. So we talk about subtle or understated performances today, but like
mhm,
performances today that would be considered over the top were just normal ass performances in, say, the
mhm,
80s or the 70s. I mean, Chuck
yeah.
Norris wouldn't be able to have a career today. And like that's coming, like I love Chuck Norris movies. I grew up on them, but like his performances, all of those movies are just like over the top.
Yeah.
Like they're way blown out. I mean, I'm trying to think of like
I
a
just thought it was an interesting take because I'm not really again I don't have a dog in this fight. I just thought it was kind of interesting to hear sort of something like what I don't know like I think like because I mean Goodfellas is a great film. Um, I've seen
yeah.
that, but I don't. But like I'm not. I don't remember enough of it to like really form a huge opinion on it or whatever. But like yeah, as far as like gangster mobster movies go or whatever, Scarface is usually a lot of people's favorites. Um,
Well, it's got like an over the top like climb to success against all odds.
and I think that's what people really gravitate, and
Yeah.
I think that's why they really like it,
It's
honestly.
also Al Pacino at that time was, I mean, he was just fire.
Hmm,
Truly, if you like Al Pacino at all and you haven't seen Scarface, you really haven't seen him like what made him, what sort of drew everybody to him, because he had
hmm.
in Scarface he has kind of a gravity to him that no one else on screen at the time
Yeah.
has. Um,
Oh yeah, and from what I of all the movie that I have seen, yes, I can definitely see that. Even when someone's trying to be like there's that great scene. I don't know if it's great, but there's a scene where like he has a friend who's trying to be charismatic and pick up chicks,
yeah,
and he's like I just show him like and I just think with tongue. He's like, what the fuck are you doing?
yeah.
And he's the reserved one in that scene, but he's definitely the more centered, and you definitely identify with him more.
Well, another thing is like Brian De Palma's sort of known for his like grandiose, especially his violence, but like his grandiose style. If that,
Hmm.
like, take another movie that's done by him that a lot of people don't realize he did is like The Untouchables.
I was gonna say,
He did The Untouchables, but like you don't think about you don't put The Untouchables and Scarface in the same, you know, category even, because The Untouchables is grandiose. It's just like it's much more subdued than Scarface. Scarface
yeah.
was a cocaine movie, right? The Untouchables is a, uh, I
Was it
guess,
bootlegging
yeah, it's
or
bootlegging.
just
It's about the guys that went after
yeah.
Al Capone. Um, it's just a different type of excess, though, because Al Capone didn't excess of violence. It was just a different type of violence.
Yeah.
But Brian De Palma, that's sort of just like his thing, right? He does grandiose excess very well.
Hmm.
Whether you want to talk about him as a good director or a bad director, or his movies as good or bad, I think really, you know,
Yeah,
one.
what is his filmography? I mean, like obviously he's got Scarface and Untouchables. It's like those are both kind of mobster films, crime films,
Well, I
crime
mean,
dramas,
so
if you
I
will.
have here like he did he's done just like a ton, but where he really starts to come into his own, I guess, would be like he did the 70s Carrie. He did
Oh, the original Carrie.
mm-hmm. He did Dress to Kill. He did Scarface, obviously in '83. Body Double. The Untouchables in '87.
See, that always kind of gets me about Scarface. I'm like, it was filmed right in the height of all this shit that was. It was like a modern film when he filmed it, right? Like it wasn't a period piece when he filmed it. He was filming like modern day Miami, I guess.
But yeah, yes, ish. He was sort of capturing an era, late '70s, early '80s. He also did Mission Impossible, by the way, the original, and Snake Eyes. So he's. I don't think anyone can
G.I. Joe Snake Eyes.
No, the Nicolas Cage Snake Eyes.
Okay. I got real confused there for a sec. Okay,
so yeah, I don't think anybody can.
Snake Eyes makes way more sense.
I don't think anybody could argue that Brian De Palma is not a great director. I would just say that you can't pin him. Everything he does is like an excess. He takes whatever the genre is or whatever it is, and he puts in his own sort of like.
Is it kind of like, would you say he's a more reserved Paul Verhoeven?
No, I wouldn't. No. Paul Verhoeven is, I would almost say, totally different. Brian De Palma doesn't do anything to make it cheesy. Verhoeven will do things that are cheesy because it works. Brian De Palma doesn't do cheesy shit.
Verhoeven, okay, this is getting like real film nerdy, but like Verhoeven almost strikes me a bit like a hyper violent version of Mike Judge, where Mike Judge makes these comedies that on surface level seem really crass or really like basic, right? But they're just filled with sort of like the meta commentary and they're kind of like they sell the movie to the person they're making fun of. If you get what I mean, like Beavis and Butthead is like one of the greatest like trolls almost to me in TV history, because like everyone loved Beavis and Butthead, and all Beavis and Butthead was a sort of dissection or just it was laughing at the audience, not with the audience, like in a weird sort of way. And then Paul Verhoeven was very, to me, in a hyper violent way, it was like he's making RoboCop, and on the surface you're like, it's this cheesy, almost childish, like, silly, whatever thing. And all it is just a sort of massive satire about how overindulgent and just sort of like, normalized people have become to violence and crime and whatever.
Well, admittedly, or he even says of himself that he likes to, all of his films are anti-fascist satirism of.
Yeah, they're satires. I mean, it's fucking because like the people who love fascism eat that shit up. Like to me, the big one is Starship Troopers. I'm like, the movie's nothing but a giant satire of the military-industrial complex, and military-industrial and Jugheads eat it up. like they love that shit. And it's like, I'm laughing at you, not with you.
Yeah, and I mean, like, when you take like Brian De Palma's not he's not trying to take the piss out of anything, if that makes sense. Like,
right.
He also made Carlito's Way. He has an insane filmography. He's done 43 movies.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Christ.
He's got so many movies. Not all of them amazing, but just his volume and the amount of them that are amazing. Pretty great. But like, I don't know what box you could put Brian De Palma in, which is kind of a problem.
43 movies, it's hard to put anyone in a box unless they're like, like an Ed Wood, and they just made 43 pornos or whatever.
Ed
I'm not
Wood,
saying Ed Wood did pornos. He did do sleazy flicks in the
Ed
later
Wood
half.
Did his
get
best.
Any work otherwise.
That's all we can say. Okay.
Well, he did cheesy sci-fi, and then he couldn't get any work, so he ended up doing just nothing but like sleazy flicks later on.
Yeah. You got to do what you got to do.
But that was more of a tragedy rather than I loved, it was like, I love tits. Let me look at. I just want to make a movie with a bunch of tits. He's not an anime director.
Okay.
That's really
remakes.
unfair, and that's really unfair because I always am like, I definitely
Love tits?
Okay.
Yeah,
No,
who
it's
don't?
like I don't like it when people put like everything in a box, and I just did that myself, which makes me a hypocrite. Where it's like, no, there are great animes out there, and there are great anime directors, and then there's a lot of anime out there that's just kind of trash and
Yeah, there's schlock and
trashy.
everything. Yeah,
Yeah, there's schlock. There's a lot of schlocky anime. There's a lot of like skeevy anime, and then there's great anime too. There's you have your I don't even like this is a joke me and Max always say where it's like as I say this with a fucking Castle in the Sky poster behind me, like Miyazaki doesn't make anime, he makes films, which is really reductive, but it's a joke. It's a joke.
Speaking of remakes, though, I saw a tweet the other day about like a Trigun remake, and I don't know if that's happening.
Yeah, they are. They showed footage of it at AX this last weekend.
That's upsetting. Is everybody upset?
No, people are in love with it. It's CG, and I'm like, ugh. I definitely have seen much worse CG. Like it's decent CG, pretty good, but like,
my thumb my nose at them.
Yeah, it is. Like, Vash has a completely like redesigned head and face. Doesn't have the crazy hair anymore. He looks younger, and he's got like just like a Leon Kennedy almost haircut.
Okay.
I don't know. It's. And again, we're going to talk about hypocrisy here. It's like I'm very hypocritical, where it's just like I love animation, but like CG just very rarely does it for me. Like I just immediately just like like I write it off so quick when something's CG. I never watched any of the Blade Runner anime because it was just like basic ass looking CG. Heard it wasn't that good anyway, so I'm like, well, of course. They're making a live action show for Blade Runner.
Yeah, I heard that, but I don't know anything about it.
It's called Blade Runner 2099. But I don't have a lot of faith because it's not Hampton Fancher, the writer of the first two movies. He's not, from what I understand, not involved. So to me, I'm kind of like, I don't. Just I'll check it out out of curiosity, but like.
I guess we'll see. But back to remake topic.
Yeah, so
they killed all their remakes because GTA 3 sucked balls.
Yeah, well, the report was a little weird because they say they canceled the remakes a while ago, and then someone's like, they also canceled because of the release of these games, and it's like, wait a minute, they canceled them 2 years ago, but the GTA trilogy came out like less than a year ago. So how does that doesn't add up? That's like, there's something not adding up here. Maybe want me to look.
They knew that these were turning out like shit, and they were like,
yeah, or maybe they put it on or they put it on hold. COVID hit, and they just put it on hold. They're like, like, we're gonna put this in a holding pattern. We'll pick it up, and then the other trilogy came out really poorly. So
right?
Like,
yeah.
It was like maybe it was more of a nail in a coffin kind of situation. That's kind of the way I'm reading it, if it is true.
Well, I sort of don't give a shit about remakes most of the time.
Yeah, and here's the thing: both of those games, those are 360 era games, and from what I understand, Red Dead Redemption, the first one, is made on literal hopes and prayers and spaghetti code.
So you'd have to remake it from the absolute ground up.
Yeah, and people in the industry have said like you would have to remake this entirely. There is no way to port this. It is on spaghetti code. And here's the crazy thing: if you've bought Red Dead Redemption digitally, like on Xbox One. Or 360, I should say, I guess, because it's a 360 era game. It runs on current Xbox, and it actually runs better. It does like the boost. So the Xbox series of consoles can run Red Dead Redemption 1 better than it ran on Xbox 360. So it kind of doesn't need a remaster, because if you have an Xbox, you can play, for all intents and purposes, a remastered version of Red Dead digitally. Or if you have the Series X, you can stick the disc in and it'll download the game off the server, and you get it that way. So
I guess my question is, though, is anybody still playing the multiplayer?
I don't know, because I actually really like the way multiplayer was handled in Red Dead 1, like a lot.
I
sad that 2 not doing that actually kind of bummed me out a bit.
Well, that open world lobby.
Yeah, just a big lobby, and it's funny because I've heard people like, "Oh, I hated that," and I'm like, "Why?"
Just wander
around. It's just so simple. I don't have any love for GTA 4 personally. I thought the game controlled like ass.
I mean, driving really sucked in that game.
Especially in particular driving. It felt like you were piloting a tuna boat.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah, I don't have
I
love
liked
for
the
GTA.
multiplayer in GTA 4 though. I remember really enjoying that. There was a lot of game modes that I really liked for that.
I remember a funny story. I think it was a year after the game had been out. I forgot what year, and someone was trying to say, you know what, I won't even say who. That's just a little mean. But at a major media outlet, I remember there being an internal argument I heard about where one of the higher ups was like, we absolutely should put GTA 4 as multiplayer game of the year. Maybe when they're like, what the fuck are you talking about? And like, it's no. And he's like, people are still playing it. And it's like, no, we have moved on to COD, or whatever version of COD was out at the time coming out that year. It's like,
all right. It was just like a lone editor who was getting money from Rockstar.
Yeah. Well, no, because they were like really in love with GTA 4 and they're really still playing it. And this was like long after it had faded, far from any sort of like news or updates or whatever.
I feel like we talked about that at the time.
It just feels funny to me. I'm like, oh, no, people are still playing GTA 4. People are still playing GTA 5. 5's a whole nother different ball of wax. But yeah, 4. I don't know if I don't like GTA games. I've kind of been open about that. I find them to be like kind of interesting for about a half hour, and then I'm bored and I don't care. The only game of that ilk that kept me occupied for more than a half hour was Saints Row. Yeah. Saints Row 4, 3, 2, but yeah, 4, 3, and 4.
Because you had superpowers.
Well, yeah, 4 you had superpowers. The game knew what the fuck it was. Like,
yeah, I'm just saying, if you
give me zero illusions about anything, like
give me Saints Row 4 with superpowers, give me destructible environments that like stay destruct until you leave for a certain amount of minutes, and when you come back, it's fine, whatever, it's reset. I don't give a shit about that. Point is, I want to be able to punch a building onto a person.
It'd be funny if, like, you after like 5 minutes, you see scaffolding appear where a building was destroyed, and then like
it just reloads.
Every 5 minutes, it gets a little higher until it's like built.
Yeah, that'd be great.
It'd be kind of funny, like just to like reload the building in with like little scaffolding models around it. I don't know.
Was there ever a Superman game where you got to fight in a city with destructible buildings?
I don't know if it was destructible. The last big Superman game was the Superman, the movie, the Bryan Singer tie-in game by EA on 360 PS3. That was the last big Superman game. There was a Factor 5 Superman game that got canceled pretty early in development.
Just a Superman game where you get to fight, or you know what, like a Power Stone-esque game where you're fighting in completely destructible cityscape or environments and just wrecking shit, punching
like
people through walls. Yeah,
something.
Give me some of that action. Let me do some like Zod level city destruction in the middle of a battle where you're fighting somebody else. That'd be great. I mean, it'd be terrible, but it'd be great.
The problem, I think the problem would be more like, I think WB would be one of the people who kind of be like standing up to that, where they're like, no, we're not going to have this. It's not going to be like Superman doesn't like do things that's going to get like many people killed.
Well, I don't like them, so fuck them. We should do that. We should do that anyway. We just find someone. You can call it not Superman.
Not Superman.
Not Superman fights not Zod.
Why don't you just do it like off The Boys or whatever? Everyone loves that. Like,
yeah, it'd be great.
It's so weird to me how there's like this big drive right now for anti-hero or like view askew superheroes with The Boys and Invincible, and I'm like, in the comic scheme, like, I feel like, wow, you guys are catching up to like 15, 20 years ago, what was happening, in the comic book world, Well,
I think the burnout on MCU and on DC, I think the burnout on comic book movies is hitting pretty hard.
It's kind of like funny to watch it be like this sort of like, it's repeating the same things, just however many years later. I don't know. Just a funny observation to me.
Did you see after Multiverse of Madness, people were all like, "Oh, Raimi should remake his Spider-Man films." Why? They're not that old. Why remake them?
Remake them? Like,
Yeah,
what?
there was like a whole Twitter thread devoted to why Raimi needs to remake his Spider-Man films to fit with the modern MCU. And it's like, what? Why?
No.
Don't. And if you
No,
wrote
there's
that thread, go to hell.
just let them be.
Just let him die. Let Toby retire. He was real old looking in the latest Spider-Man.
He was.
He looked so tired. He was great, but he looked so tired.
Yeah, he definitely did. There's no getting around that. But, yeah,
You know
I'm
that
glad
scene
I'm
where
glad
he
you said it because that was my first thought. I was like, man, this guy looks
yeah
fucking old.
when he takes that hit, I literally screamed, "Uncle Toby,
Uncle Toby.
Uncle Toby, no!"
Like I thought Andrew Garfield looked pretty damn good. Like still, I was like,
Oh yeah, he
Andrew
did great.
Garfield's like you're still way too sexy for this role, but it's like,
Yeah, he was too funny. Is the problem? Like Tom Holland has this beautiful thing going on where like you believe he could be a high school student, maybe because he's little, but also because like he pulls off that nerd really well.
Mhm. Yeah.
You know, Toby always looked like a middle-aged man. Never believed he was in high school.
It's funny that Max said this on stream the other day where he's like, I never actually really liked the casting of Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man, like ever from the beginning, but he like never really said much because everyone kind of loved the movies. But he's like, I never really thought Tobey was a great casting choice for Spider-Man. At least not the Spider-Man in his head. Which I'm like, that's kind of fair.
Well,
And one of the things he said was like he always looked way older. He always looked like a 30 or 40-year-old.
Yeah,
Like
he just never looked young.
He never looked young.
Andrew
Which
Garfield
is true.
he's too damn slick. See, I don't think Andrew Garfield's like overly handsome. Not to say that the man's ugly. I just don't think he's like overly handsome. It's just that he's too slick. Like his performances are so smooth, even when he does the awkward shit.
Yeah, and I think Kevin Smith said it in his podcast too, which was like, look, Toby was a great Peter, great nerdy Peter, although we both kind of agree he's felt old even for the role then. And then Andrew was a great Spider-Man in costume, great snarky, smarmy. And then Tom Holland's kind of like the good mix. It's like because Tobey Maguire, like and Max said it. He's like he's got too much of a golly gee willikers, like like the way he acts and some of the things he says in the Sam Raimi films is like it's a very different take on Spider-Man. He's like, God, where do these guys come from? Like just a Jiminy Jillikers, bit to him, and he's like, maybe it's just too much Pleasantville, like I can't get it out of my head or something. And I'm like, no, I think it's definitely like because Sam Raimi was very adamant, like he only was familiar with Silver Age, and he did not know anything about like 80s and beyond Spider-Man characters or villains or anything. So
nothing
everything
about the world with cocaine, huh?
Yeah, so everything for him was just kind of like basing it off of like the 60s Spider-Man he grew up with. And I think that bled probably into the way he was, written and directed as a character. So yeah, that all makes sense. Here's a good question. Should they remake any Spider-Man games? Probably not.
Well, they just nailed it with the last two. The last two, by all accounts, have been fucking great. They don't need to remake any. I guess if that was the team remaking them, there was one on N64 that I played, but otherwise I never really played.
The Neversoft one, yeah.
I don't know.
The
I don't think they
Neversoft
need
one
to.
made by Treyarch.
No shit.
I
I
believe it was Treyarch, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they need to do that. I don't really think, honestly, I'm not sure that there's any remake that I really, really want. I've been thinking about it more and more. I guess, like, would I want a remake of Silent Hill, or do I just want a new Silent Hill game?
Yeah, and this month there's a couple, it's kind of like tying back to our last episode, there's a couple Scrimblow Bimblow remakes coming out. You've got a Klonoa remaster at the end of the week, and then you've got a Pac-Man World 3D, which I already ranted about. It remains to be seen how those go, you know what I mean? And then there've been some remasters recently that have been questionable. It's not just GTA.
Well, I don't see. That's the other thing. Is I don't know how I feel. Like, would you rather have a remaster or a remake?
Right, and part of me is just kind of like depends on who's doing it. You know what I mean? Like some games might be good, if they got remade from the whole like the hey, the idea was kind of there, but it didn't match up, right? It didn't. Again, we go back to Code Veronica over and over, and that's kind of like that's like the eternal.
Great setting, weird villains, like it.
Yeah, everything great, but the game sucks. And I don't know, like there's been a couple things this year that I feel like hit a little hard about, like, God, these suck. And that was one was Sonic Origins, which recently came out, and that's an interesting story because one of the main programmers, Stealth, who worked on it, he came out like right after the game launched and basically like lambasted Sega with their
Really?
handling of the workflow and how everything went with that game and how upset he was, and how he begged for them not to, to not release it, last week or whenever they did, and like give it more time. Like things are not finished. Like there are known bugs, and Sega was like, no, we're doing it, and it's come out and it's got problems, and those are actually remakes. Like a lot of people think they're just ports of the old. No, like they actually they're taking the remakes on what they call the retro engine, the one Christian Whitehead did. The thing that Sonic Mania was made on,
Right.
and they remade 4 Sonic games. Some of them were already done, and then Sonic 3 and Knuckles is the one Stealth was actually working on for Sonic Origins. Like they were remaking these games to natively run on hardware. These are not emulators, and they're very much meant to be like you wouldn't know the difference otherwise. Like it's just they're in widescreen now. And we've got more options and whatever. But anyways, like he basically just burned his bridge with Sega forever, which possibly means Sonic Mania 2 is probably gone. But I think at this point, like Sonic Mania being 5 years old already, and the fact that Sega never moved forward with a part 2, or even doesn't look like there was ever any discussion, kind of already tells me all I need to know. Sega was never going to do a Sonic Mania 2. They probably are pissed about Sonic Mania. And people are like, they wouldn't do that. That's money. And I'm like, no, Sega's that fucking petty. They have a long history of being that fucking petty.
Yeah, they don't have a great track record in general of making good decisions.
So, I mean, a 15 plus person, fan done game, like, fan created game on their own created engine and whatever. And it's the highest rated Sonic game of all time, boasting.
That's wild.
Better than anything Sonic Team ever made, and it's just like, I'm sorry, Sega, you just got shown your ass, and it's ugly, and so of course they don't want to fucking follow that up, because then they put themselves. It's like, I think for them, like, we paint ourselves into a corner where it's just kind of like people don't even, like, people stop looking forward to the Sonic Team games, and they just keep praising the outsourced indie people, and it's just like, just makes us look bad.
Don't take any lessons from that for any reason. Just let that just be nothing but an insult. Not a single thing to be learned here. Thank you and goodbye. Speaking of Sega, they've got to have, if you're going to have remakes or remasters, Sega is probably the most ripe of anybody.
Yeah, that's true.
Because they have, Konami is the most ripe of anybody. But Konami's the most ripe just in general with their IP. They're not doing anything with it.
Konami's the most ripe for like early 3D, right? Like they could make a killing with
that's what I'm getting at. The rule should be like 20 years. Like if the game's not 20 years old, you don't fucking remake it. Like make it, if you're going to remake or remaster a game, in my mind, like the only thing that makes it worth it is if, you have a big enough audience that has never heard of it before.
Well, that's the scary thing about remasters and remakes, is that they're always scared. Well, like, you can't, it's like
what
a
if
gamble
people have
to say,
forgotten? What if
show up about it? Like, like, will people care anymore?
Right. Yeah.
So
I guess
people like, if you have a loud, large fandom that's like consistently buying stuff, and then like you remaster like a 10-year-old game and they buy it again, kind of thing. It's almost like getting that repeat customer.
Right.
Like,
yeah.
it feels,
Prince.
So I can see where they're like, it becomes more like, because like it feels safer for these companies to do like these less older ports, like Last of Us 1. It's getting a part 1. because they know there's an audience for Last of Us. Like the last game came out like 2 years ago and it sold really, really, really well. So it's like, of course they'll buy her Last of Us Part 1 again.
I will not.
I will not. So yeah, and then there's another. I think I want to bring up at least like one other um remaster that came out this year, and that was Chrono Cross Remaster, which was very high end graphically, performance wise, like crushed the PS1. Kind of had a lot of choke point moments. Looked beautiful, didn't run well, right? But like, man, it was like really pushing that hardware. And Digital Foundry, they literally, when they analyzed the remaster that came out in spring, like March or whatever it was, they're like, it actually runs worse on the PS5 than the PS1. There are moments where the performance is worse than the original game running on original hardware. And if you look into it, and all they really did was they basically, it's running an emulator that's running an ISO of the game. And they did do touch-ups, like they touched up the character models, and then they ran the backgrounds through an AI upscaler, and it looks all smudged and like even if it just even if it just ran like at the same level as the PS1, it's still a very like we didn't give a shit kind of feeling and mentality for the game. Like,
well, how does that count as a remake or a remaster? Like, how does that even, if they're just emulating?
Because like they absolutely did clean up the character models,
right?
Like some work was done to make them clean and clear and whatever, but like
they cut corners everywhere else.
It just seems like this was either in a very, very, very small team or a very, very small budget. Small dev time kind of thing. Something to that.
I feel like Chrono Cross is one of the most anticipated remakes, though, or not remakes, but remasters. Like people have been talking about that for ages,
and it definitely kind of got a lot of heat when it came out for kind of like how
half-assed it was. Yeah,
how shoddy it was, because it's like, okay, like it's running in widescreen, but it's like sort of like a bullshit widescreen, like a more stretched rather than true. And just, man, the background's running through because like people have done AI upscales like privately, like fans have done it, and they've done a really, really, really good job at doing AI upscaling. But this AI upscaler was like, it was like a smooth filter. It didn't even look like a true upscaler. Or if it was like it was done quickly, because the thing is, like, some of the AI upscaling fans have done on their own.
Right.
They said it took a lot of time, and they had to go in and sort of like meticulously go in and sort of like tweak, because the AI would like misread what something's supposed to be, right?
Right.
So they'd have to go in and make small adjustments, and they're like, and it took a lot of time. And whoever the developer did, they just did it. They just ran it through the AI upscaler once, called it a day, said whatever image it spits out is fine, kind of thing.
That's so sad. It's like the that blur tool in Photoshop,
absolutely,
where it smooths things out, but really all it does is just blur the hard lines, so it just looks like everything has a glow.
Yeah,
that's so sad. That's actually not funny. That's somebody spent money on that.
It really does suck for like the fans of the original game. Trying to find like if there's like a really good, yeah. Some of it's not too bad, but yeah, like I don't know if this is very good, but yeah, like it's just one of those real unfortunate things where like you could just kind of tell Square kind of didn't have a lot of heart, didn't put a whole lot of
well, it seems indicative of Square a lot lately.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. You got to look. Yeah, here I'll show you this picture. You got to like look at it blown up to really see what I'm talking about here.
I wonder if it's just like, oh, okay, yeah. Yeah, let me open that original.
Yeah, like you can see how like the upscale just sort of like smears the background, and like it's supposed to be villages or
better. It is better in terms of just like
fidelity.
Yeah, but I can definitely see why
like in this shot I'm showing you, there's like this island in the background, and there's supposed to be like houses on the island, and the AI upscaler just kind of like smudges it to be like brown spots on on the hill.
Yeah, I wouldn't, if you didn't tell me that that was a village, I wouldn't know that that was a village, but I also wouldn't know
Supposed
that
to be.
in the original classic mode either, to be fair.
Yeah, because the thing is like you blow that up like big, and it's kind of like, yeah, like it's
The character models have definitely been cleaned up, though.
yeah, exactly. Like character models have been absolutely touched up. But to show you, I think this was done. This was more of a meticulous. Here's an image here I'll show you of just like the opening village of the game. This was done through fandom through an AI upscaler.
What was the, oh, right, yeah, we've talked about this one before. This does look great.
Yeah.
But what is probably the best done remaster that you've seen lately?
Lately? Ooh. It's Xenoblade Definitive. I'm just, I'm gonna whore myself out here again and again, but like,
Oh, it is your way, whore.
but like, and they were kind of open about it in the interviews. They're like, well, some of the textures are redone, some of them we didn't have time, so some of them are just upscaled. But that was kind of like, hey, we're gonna do this, and for them, it was like they're taking a Wii game that's it was only 10 years old. But like they're like, okay, we're gonna replace all the head models. We're gonna put an AI lip syncer on it. We're gonna replace all the hand models because Wii era is still coming off the PS2 era of
Had that chunky hand, yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have fingers, you have karate hands, and only karate hands, and like action figure thumb placement, so you can grab. I'm doing it on the video for There's the crab hands. Crab battle. Which it actually is probably better than Block Fist. You remember good old Block Fist where everyone just grabs things with their fist?
Oh yeah, GoldenEye and Perfect Dark.
Yeah. Even, I mean, it was even like Metal Gear. Metal Gear Solid, the original, had like Block Fist. Snake.
Yeah, so there's a good.
Yeah, that's a good
compare.
Yeah. I can dig that.
Yeah, to me, I'm like, because that's how you remaster. Because they never said it was a remake. They're just like, yeah, it's a remaster.
Oh, shulk.
It's a, this is a remaster at the end of the day. Like, yes, they replaced some textures, and yes, like some of the character models got updated, like the heads and the hands specifically. But like the rest of the body is the same polygonal count, everything, whatever, right? So,
which one's the new one? I can't tell.
Can you believe too that there's a lot of there's people out there who are like, I don't like the remaster, like I don't like the way it looks, like I like the original look better, and I'm like, the fuck is wrong with you?
The original look looks like you remember those Thumb Wars movies? That's what the faces look like in the original versions.
It's like, I'm dead serious. Like some people are like, it's so weird to me because some people are like, oh, I like the original look better. It's like it looks too anime. And I'm like, there's something very, very wrong with you. I feel like if you're gonna sit there and tell me the original character models looked better in Xenoblade, like on the Wii compared to the Switch version,
they just don't like the new version because it looks too anime. They said
it looks too anime. They're like, yeah, it looks too anime.
But the not original versions look like they look like old school. You remember in the early 2000s, you'd think you found like a naked picture or something. It's just a bad Photoshop. It's just like, it's clearly a Photoshopped face on somebody else's body.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like. The old version is actually kind of horrific.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm like, dude. I'm like, what are people talking about? The old one looks like mud.
Seeing these, especially the angry girl on the left here.
Oh,
Her
yeah,
angry...
Melia.
Fuck. Her angry face is just... I gotta look up Thumb Wars.
So, yeah, not really buying that. But yeah, like that was like a remaster done well. But like that remaster probably got more time. Well, okay, so the remaster for that game started around September 2018, and it was done early 2020. Like the game came out in May 2020, but it was like I happen to know like it was done a little bit early. It was done like a couple months even before that. Like the May release date was held on to a little bit. So you're talking about a game that took about 18 months or less to remaster.
Wow.
And then that's what it looks like. So it's yeah, like, and on one hand, people would sit there and be sorry, I saw your Thumb Wars.
It's the same face as Melia's making.
Yes, it is angry Thumb. Oh man.
I'm gonna have to find a way to post all these links.
You should just take a picture of like that angry thumb and then like find whatever shot from the original Star Wars and just be like, it's like Xenoblade Wii, Xenoblade Switch. But yeah, like, yeah, because I don't know, like to me, I'm like, okay, so 18 months sounds about right, I guess, for remaster. But then, like on top of not only did they remaster the game to look and run like that, but they also added a 10-hour epilogue of new area, new content. Granted, it was an area that was supposed to be in the original game. It got cut, and then
so it was already planned out and shit.
Well, and they said like we would never have been able to make the epilogue if we didn't have already had done at least an early version of the map and have it already, and they were adamant, like they were open about that. Like, yeah, we were not gonna, and then it came down to a time where they're like, well, it came down to like we can either make the epilogue longer and have more stuff in it, but that's going to eat into time for the next game. So I kind of made the decision to just make it as is, and then we just roll with it there. So again, yes, it's a little more, taking the horn, like, oh, Monosoft or Wizards, and I'm like, I think it all just kind of also boils down to the fact there was an interview that came up with them, and I translated a little bit of it and put it online, where they were talking to the map editors, the map creators of the thing, and they're like, oh, what do you like about what do you like most about the company? And they're like, well, we really like how like everyone has a voice, like it's weird that they listen, to any suggestions. From any department. And he's like, for like a couple of them said, like, I love the fact he's like, anytime I have it sounded like writer's block or like, he said like a block, like they have a refresh room. I translated it through two different things and they both translates as to refresh room. So I guess they have a section of their development studio where it's just a de-stressing room. Where they're like, yeah, if you're getting too bogged down in work, just go de-stress over in this area of the building.
Well, you've seen those blowjob urinals that they have in China, right?
No, I have not. Excuse me? Is it like a glory hole?
It's like this chest height thing with like an adjustable motorized suction mouth thing on it.
What the fuck?
You've never seen it? They're horrific looking.
Is it kind of like, is it from those areas of China where like the what is it, the male female ratio is like super skewed? I watched a mini documentary on that. It was actually sad as fuck, where it was like, yeah, it's like 5-to-1 or more, males to females, and most of the females when they get old enough they fucking move away hard, because they don't want to be like hounded, constantly by like 30 dudes.
I just googled Chinese blowjob machine. I have regrets.
Regrets. There's the name of the episode: Chinese blowjob machines. Definitely can't call it that.
Fucking, I have regrets.
Oh wow! What the fudge?
Yeah, they're real. Everybody googled Chinese blowjob
No, don't.
machine. It's nothing
Alexa,
but pictures of Xi Jinping.
well, it's weird. It looks
Boom.
like a shit. Okay, it looks like a Schick razor, but it's like 4 feet tall. And the part where the razor goes looks like a screen, like maybe an iPod screen or something. And yeah,
there's
like right where
dials and shit on it.
Yeah, and there's like that. It looks like a fucking 70s sci-fi budget TV show thing. And yeah, there's just a little pink hole right where your ding-a-ling goes.
And it's adjustable in case, you're taller or shorter, or you got to look out for our short and tall kings.
Wow, man.
Yeah, just a quick relaxation room.
So I'm like, again, is this for those areas of China where there's basic? God, I got telling you, man, like there's a real problem in some of the more inland areas, and they talk about how like there's these whole villages of guys who are like they know they're never going, like they've succumbed to the fact that should they continue to live in that area of the world, they will never find a girlfriend or wife. Like they just know that they're just never going to find it because just the numbers are just that skewed against them.
Remarkably sad.
Yes, I'm telling you, it's sad. Like, you laugh, but I'm like, and there was a whole, and part of the documentary was about these sex dolls that were being manufactured for this area of China. Cause they're like, and how the guys are like, well, I'm never going to fucking find a woman. So it's like, it's pointless for me, to sit there and like, like they've basically accepted their fate. And they're like, whatever, I'll just fuck this sex doll.
So I
that's
pitched,
what I'm wondering if these are for.
I tried to get when I was working in marketing, I tried to get my boss to let me pitch the company. He was like, we're not going to make an ad for this. What would we even say? And I was like, dates are expensive.
What would be the pitch? Dates are expensive.
Just come on, sell this motherfucker. No, actually, I would just it would just be a picture of Alec Baldwin, and it just says ABC always be, and then you just leave it. And he's just holding up the thing, and that ad sells itself, man. Anyway, if anybody's wondering how I did
Closing.
marketing. No. Any final thoughts on remakes?
I think there might be a silver lining to some of these remasters coming out and being piss poor, and that is people get tired of them.
Well, they're no longer a money printing machine.
Yeah, and it's only the company's fault for having these shoddy remasters come out.
Well, isn't that kind of what every company does, right? Someone does a good remaster or remake, and then every other company's like, oh, we got to pump out every fucking remake we possibly can until they don't do well enough, and then it's like you won't see this for 10 years.
Is Square both the reason and the response? Like they made Final Fantasy VII Remake,
right?
And now and that got everyone like hyped up on nostalgia juice, but that game did not have a smooth development, and it took 5 fucking years.
Some would say it's kind of mixed on whether or not people are happy about it anyway.
I'd say most are happy about it. I'd say most. And I think even the people who have like major grievances with it are still. I still think that you got some enjoyment out of it. Like there's definitely like I don't think anyone could look at Remake and say it as a total. I mean, of course there is.
There's somebody on the internet. Yeah, yeah.
But I think in the majority, the majority of the people liked it, and I think the people who had grievances were like, they had them, but I still liked, and there's still enough there to generally like or enjoy or whatever. So, but yeah, like that was a very, very high quality remake, and RE2 was a very, very high quality remake. I don't know, obviously, people have grievances at 3, but that's a whole nother subject. But
well, was 3 the game that needed to be remade? Is the biggest grievance that I've heard.
Well, that and the fact that they didn't remake all of 3. People feel like they
took a short game and made it shorter.
Like people feel like they shortchanged 3. Like it wasn't like it's not like any of these other reasons. Just you didn't remake all of it. You just cut corners. Kind of thing. And I guess that's kind of true to an extent. I just never really thought RE3 was that great to begin with.
Well, it was a fucking DLC.
Hell, neither did Shinji Mikami.
Oof.
So, so, so it's like I'm like 3 was fine. Like, holy shit, did absolutely zero people play test the final boss on the hardest 2 difficulties, or more likely they did. They told them it was busted, and Capcom said, "Fuck it, I don't care, release it anyways."
I'm torn because I like the remakes of you know, Resident Evil. I like RE2 remake.
Yeah,
But I actually I know that it's going to spawn, or it has spawned, RE3, RE4. They're not going to remake Code Veronica ever. I would actually
which
like.
is again unfortunate, because here's a real problem with a lot of these remasters. They're remastering games people already love, and they're not maybe taking a second look at games that were maybe either good but not great, or good ideas but didn't execute well enough, and sort of fixing, you know, fixing flawed gems. You know what I mean?
Right,
Like, I
yeah,
don't know.
nobody wants to take that risk. No one
Yeah,
wants
nobody wants
to,
to.
yeah. Well,
It's
why didn't they remake RE1 in the remake style? Like in this latest remake style. People always give the answer well, remake is already amazing. Like, you don't need to remake it. And
part of me is just like, yeah, I'll give it time.
well, but the other thing is well, RE2 was already pretty great. Why did you remake it? You can always say that.
Hmm.
RE1 being remade, if you're going to remake every fucking.
Right, and I think you had a good point too, because what RE2 came out, I don't know, 2019 or some shit.
Mhm.
Which was pretty much like 20, 21 years after the original game. So enough time has passed that, like, okay, we're remaking this game. It's going to be in a completely, the graphics are going to look completely different. It's going to be at a different, over the shoulder camera. It's going to be different. Like, it's actually enough time has passed. But that also gets into the argument of like, well, people loved RE1 remake. Remake 1 was a fantastic, it was one generation away. It was like 5, 6 years between RE1 and remake, and people fucking love remake and still love remake, and it's great. And I'd argue more that's more just because I'm like, yeah, but like early 3D looked
Like
early
ass.
3D looked like ass, and it didn't take long going one generation above, early
It
3D.
looked
PS1
like
to PS2 is
smudge
a
ass.
huge leap. Yeah. But the leap from GameCube to what we see with RE4, like, yes, it absolutely 100% looks significantly better,
Oh
but
yeah.
it also kind of also looks like, it also does look like the same ish game, like same camera work, same kind of like setting. You're getting the same, you know,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it's not this massive like holy shit, like nothing like this doesn't look anything like it. It's like, but yeah, I think I kind of agree with you a little more, where like they should
20
slow
years is
down on the
good.
remasters and remakes, and wait a give it like 20 years, like you said, kind of like give it 20 years, unless it's a game that like could be improved upon, like it's like known, like it's liked but has issues and could be improved upon. That's something, maybe to look into there. But like when you're talking about games like Chrono Cross, like they didn't add anything to the game, they didn't fix anything, people weren't asking for anything to really be fixed or changed, like on a simple level, right? So it was just kind of like, no, people just wanted to play the game, and then for some reason they wasted their time with this remaster that kind of comes out and it runs worse and looks smudgy, and it's like you could have just you could have
Left
just
it
did what you
alone.
did. Well, you could have left it alone, or you could have just done what PS3 did. Remember when PS3 let you just buy old PS1 games?
Yeah.
Like it's just running the old ROM. Like, part of me kind of feels like maybe you should have just done that.
Well,
Yeah,
that argument has been made sort of just in general, where every new system should just be able to play the old
play the
ROMs.
old ones. And then there are the 2 reasons I think that doesn't happen is, one, sometimes that creates bugs, and like certain games have like timing, like like little mini games or whatever sequences that require precision timing that new TVs can't do, because like you have inherent frame delay or whatever.
Hmm.
So they actually can sometimes create bugs that didn't exist before when you just run the old ROM on new systems, but that's kind of few and far between. I think the other thing is that I think it's easier to sell a remaster, right? Like Chrono Cross on PS3 was like $6, and even with advertising, it's probably like, oh yeah, you can play the old game, cool, whatever. But then you say Chrono Cross Radical Dreamers edition, new stuff, $20.
Well, more importantly than new stuff, even it's the idea that it's been updated so it looks better. Because a lot of people's worry, especially like friends of mine that are say 25 and under, that kind of thing, like cousins and shit. They don't play older games because they think it looks like ass compared to today, which is true. It does technically look like ass compared to today, except for like pixel art. Your 2D games still hold up pretty well.
I just don't know if that's a thing.
No, fuck yeah. Early 3D compared to today looks like complete asshole.
It does, but like I don't know if that's true in a world of Minecraft.
Well, Minecraft's on purpose, so.
I know, but like kids don't think about it like it that way.
I mean, little kids, sure.
It's a blocky but ugly looking game, and kids fucking love it. So I'm like, I don't know if I can necessarily buy that people don't like old games because they look ugly.
Oh well, it's not that they don't like it. I think it's a barrier to entry. Part of the reason why I never played Minecraft though is because it looks like ass.
Well, and then the other thing too there is, and as I've always said, is like people aren't going to play a blocky, ugly game that's as ugly as Minecraft because they have Minecraft. They might look at something like Silent Hill 1 and be like, what is this Minecraft mod? And it's like, it's not a Minecraft mod. Like Pilot Wings on the Wii U, Smash Wii U, they had the Pilot Wings level where the plane would fly over the Super NES like airport.
Right.
And there was a comment on the Miiverse that was like, why did they reference Minecraft in Pilot Wings? And it's like, oh.
Everything is Minecraft now.
It's like, well, I mean, like, I think it was like, just like a legit young kid, it was like they didn't get it. They saw it and they thought this old Mode 7 Super NES thing was a Minecraft reference just because of the way it looked.
I think that's something interesting that we've talked about before is like being in the older generation of gamers, how many things are made as references for older gamers that like the majority of gamers, because the majority of gamers are all younger generation, that they'll just never get. It's not for them.
I think the average age of the gamer is actually creeping up. I think it's like 25 to 35 is
the average age now.
Average age of the average gamer. Like, I think it's crept up. Honestly,
really, I thought it was still in like that 15 to 25 range. That's crazy.
Yeah. 33 years old.
I am the average age of the average gamer. I am the average man. Well, on that note for my self-esteem, you are average in all ways, sir. Thank you. Any final thought on remasters?
I think my final thought was just kind of like, slow down.
Pull out.
If you're gonna remaster something, make it for something that needs it, or wait, like you said, wait 20 years.
I think the real problem is they don't know what needs remastering. They just know what people are talking about online.
Yeah, because that's true because there's probably a huge disconnect between like say a dev and a publisher.
Yeah, I imagine when your whole life is building stuff, you're probably not trolling the internet for what people want you to build necessarily.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it is an interesting thought, and it's actually a good tweet us thought. You should tweet us with your what game needs a remaster? Like what game's begging for a remaster? Points for if it's really obscure. Like I know we're gonna get like because we've gotten GoldenEye. Oh, yeah, GoldenEye
I want to see some Kodelka and Rule of Rose suggestions in there.
I want to see some fucking Road Rash. That's right. I want a Road Rash remaster, not a remake, a remaster. As always, we've got
bring those 90s Dutch angles back. Yeah.
Yes, everybody loves Dutch angles. Remake the Indigo Prophecy. Isn't that, if I remember correctly, didn't that game have like a load of Dutch angles? The marketing for it had a lot of Dutch angles.
Probably.
David Cage was like, well, Dutch angles. As always, we've got some producers to thank. If you're interested in becoming a patron at any level, please check out patreon.com/YoVideogames podcast. Due to the week was Nicholas B. Thank you, Nicholas. And our producers for this episode are The Arnett, Scrunami, Kuroi35, HyperViper89, Ziggy Z, and Online Persona. Thank you, dudes, and we will catch you next time.
Later, dudes.